And welcome along. I'm the Gardener Ben, and it is now time to bring you my last best of selection for 2023. Next to me is an empty ladder, ready and waiting for the top 20 most recommended David Austin roses. Now, when I started amassing my collection of roses, nobody had created any media like this at all, and I went around buying roses blindly. I've now created well over 115 personal rose reviews for yourselves, giving you a really good adaptation and opinion of the performance, the colour, the fragrance, the growth habit, the disease resistance of all of these beautiful roses. If a particular rose catches your attention during this video, please do make sure that you seek out its personal rose review. You'll find it in my story highlights on Instagram or on my YouTube channel, whichever platform is best for you. Make sure that you save this video for later, so in the winter months when you're putting together your wish list of roses, whether you're buying them bare root or potted, you can refer back to this video. And please do make sure that you like, follow, share, and leave me a comment below if you like it. There's been quite a large shift around in this particular collection, and I want to make it quite clear that if a rose has moved position or a rose has now been retired by David Austin, it doesn't mean, in my opinion, that the rose has reduced its ability or its ranking in any way particular. That just something else has changed, and maybe another rose is showing better characteristics, a new variety has come onto the market. There are many now completely retired roses here in the UK, very much worth growing, and several of them will appear in this collection. So without further ado, a rose that you have asked me to rank, several of you have brought it to my attention. I seem to have overlooked this rose, and over this particular year I have been monitoring this one really closely. And a new entry at number 20, forgive me going backwards and forwards, a new entry at number 20 is the Lady Gardner. This cracking rose is really good and reaches around 3.5 to 3.5 feet high and about 3.5 feet wide, producing lovely apricot flowers. Not a particularly great specimen of this particular rose, but making it onto several of my best of collections, including the best for cutting. This plant produces really strong upright stems, really thick and strong and healthy, making it absolutely perfect for those of you that want to cut and bring these blooms into the house. So a new entry into number 20 this year is the Lady Gardner. Right, sliding ever so slightly down the rankings, this one is Olivia Rose Austin, coming in at number 19. A firm favourite with all of you, a really lovely informal habit, producing, as you can see, really large, very flat, true pink flowers. There's very little of particular fragrance on this rose for me, ranking in at a 4-star rating, but this is Olivia Rose Austin. Right next to her, the very popular and ever so lovely Roald Dahl, making it onto several of my best of collections. Roald Dahl is a fantastically versatile rose for growing in a pot or in the garden, but also, most importantly, for growing in partial shade. If you have an area of your garden which struggles with getting much light, this particular rose will flower and perform really well, receiving just around 3 to 5 hours of direct sunlight per day. And if left undeadheaded, Roald Dahl will produce really lovely hips. So do make sure that you stop deadheading it somewhere in late September, early October, so you have a lovely crop of hips to bring into the house come the autumn. Up next, two roses coming together, which I hope to bring you both, in my opinion, ranking very similarly. As you can see, the lovely Kew Gardens on the left-hand side there, the pure white, and the very lovely yellow edition, which is Tottering by Gently. This particular rose, these particular roses, for me, neck and neck with performance, neck and neck with disease resistance, and the amount of flowers they will produce. Really lovely, both of them carrying their blooms really well, and especially as we move into our very turbulent summers with hot, dry periods of weather, and then faced with lots of driving wind and rain. These particular roses standing up really well to a multitude of weather conditions. So this is Kew Gardens and Tottering by Gently, both ranking at number 17. All right, one run done. Moving up. Last year, this particular rose, let's have a look at my list. Molino, making it to number 16 on the ranking. A really lovely rose, named after the Wolverhampton Wanderers Stadium, I believe. This particular rose A lot of you don't like the name of it, but particularly I'm not judging this rose on its name, I'm judging it on its performance, and no other rose in the garden, especially this colour, glows as resplendently as Molino. If I bring that in close to the camera, you can see glowing beautifully golden yellow with lovely tinges of peach and pink to it. Molino is a really beautiful rose, coming up to around 3.5 to 3.5 feet high, very upright, producing its blooms nice and boldly, holding them nicely, as you can see, erectly up to the sun. Very proud. I say this an awful lot, but I look at this one out of the kitchen window and it really does look absolutely stunning. So this is Molino. That one is ranking at number 16. Right, moving on. A pure white rose for you now that produces a really large specimen. This one has ranked on several collections for myself, and this is the beautiful Tranquility, ranked at number 15. A really large, healthy shrub, producing a plant somewhere in the region of about 5 feet by 5 feet. A really large statement shrub, which is absolutely perfect for planting en masse. If you want to plant a group of these together and really create a statement, maybe underplant them with something like alliums and edge them with box hedging. Tranquility is a fantastic rose for doing that, producing enormously large, slender stems with large collections of flowers and bracts of flowers on the end. I post lots of pictures normally of these sat on my shoulder because there's normally up to a dozen flower heads per stem. They're incredibly heavy, they will need some support, but Tranquility is an absolutely fabulous rose, and in my opinion the best white rose David Austin have brought to the market so far. So that is Tranquility, ranking at number 15. Moving on. Not unfortunately in flower today, but showing a little bit of bud. This is James L. Austin. He is a really lovely cerise pink rose, producing a large bush, something in the region of 4.5 feet tall and around 4.5 feet wide. A really substantial plant, very shelf-like in his growth, producing a sort of a shelf out in front of you at just above waist height of beautiful cerise pink flowers. A really good strong fragrance. So this one is James L. Austin. Flanking James L. Austin is yet another Austin, another pure white rose from David Austin with slightly sort of ivory tones, the beautiful short climber that is Claire Austin. This particular rose, in my opinion, isn't a shrub and it is not a climber. I've said on more than one times that this particular rose actually needs something like a pillar or a post or an obelisk to grow up. Make it a statement piece in your garden and embrace its long arching stems and its floppy habit. I build a new obelisk for my particular plants every couple of years out of hazel sticks. They're around 8 to 9 feet high and the plant absolutely dripping with flowers. It's lovely to have them towering over you and their heads nodding down towards you. You can see very pretty indeed. This particular rose will flower all the way through into the very back end of the season, often in flower well towards Christmas here in the UK. As the nighttime temperatures drop off, this particular pure white rose will be affected by the cold temperatures. You can see a little bit of pink spotting on the back there, caused by the build-up of condensation, little droplets of water overnight, very cold, so you get this pink tinging to the very back of the petals. But this is Claire Austin, ranking in at number 13. Right, who is next? Next to that, a royal rose, Princess Anne, sliding down 3 places. This particular shrub rose from David Austin Roses, really highly ranked by myself. A really beautiful rose for keeping in a small space. If you want a rose to work really hard and you want to put this in a pot or a high traffic area, Princess Anne is going to be one of the first roses in flower and often one of the last. Actually, I remember when the weather turned this time into the winter last year, this particular rose still smothered in flowers. I videoed it, literally looked like it was dipped in sugar, encrusted in ice, still blooming well into the beginnings of December. So this is Princess Anne. Right, next up for you, a new addition for 2022 and making it right into the centre of the collection. This is the lovely Elizabeth, making it onto several best of collections from myself this year, including the best for value for making a statement on a pillar or a post. Elizabeth is a really lovely rose, reaching well in excess of 5 to 5.5 feet. Obviously, I've only had the rose in my collection for around 18 months, so I'm not actually sure of its final size, but certainly all the signs are pointing to the fact that Elizabeth is going to be a really substantial shrub, which is a wonderful problem to have with her. You can see those lovely peachy apricot and yellow tones coming through. Much like the old Rambling Road Phyllis Bride, this rose has lots of different colours rippling through it and a really good fragrance. It's lovely and lemony, it's fresh and fruity. It's a really, really good all-round rose. So that is a new entry in at number 11. That one is Elizabeth. A really good all-round rose that unfortunately, I've got a feeling this one is going to be due for retirement soon, due on its age and its age alone, making it to a very, very respectable middle placement, number 10 in my most recommended David Austin roses. This one is Septed Isle. I adore this rose and I have several of them planted around the garden. It works really well in full sun and in partial shade. It produces really good hips towards the back end of the autumn, and it has really lovely open goblet shaped flowers. They're chalice shaped with a lovely collection, as you can see, of yellow stamens resplendently growing in the center there. A fantastic rose for fragrance. Oh, it's warm and spicy, it's peppery, it has lovely accents of mirth. So in at number 10 is Septed Isle. Next up for you, a retired rose from the UK, now coming in at number 9, down 2 places. And it's not down 2 places because it's actually got any worse or I think there's any problems with this particular rose. However, there are several entries going right up into the top of the top 10. So then this one is ranked at number 9. Is the very, very lovely, and I say this an awful lot because all of these roses bring me such joy. This is Crown Princess Margarita. Treated either as a shrub or as a low climber. It's a large sprawling plant reaching around 5.5 to 6 feet. I have mine planted in 2 different ways, one against a fence and one as a freestanding shrub, which I allow it to sort of flop and gracefully arch about. Another rose, very much like Roald Dahl, which will perform really well either in full sun or in partial shade. So if you have a spot in the garden that you're looking to inject a good hit of colour into, Crown Princess Margarita is a really good rose for that. Dark green emerald foliage with these beautifully deeply cupped apricot flowers paired with a fantastic fragrance. It really is one of my favourites for fragrance in the garden. I do tend to cut this one quite regularly and bring it into the house, but unfortunately it does shatter very quickly in a vase, so it's probably best to enjoy it. Plant it in a high traffic area, maybe on the size of a rose arch or at the back of somewhere you may sit to enjoy its fragrance outside. But this is Crown Princess Margarita, now ranked at number 9. Right, who is next? I have an empty vase for you, and that symbolises that I have one rose in the collection that is actually not in flower. And to stop me making a stumble and placing it in the wrong place, we have an empty vase, a no-show. And that is at number 8 for the Lady Emma Hamilton. Now retired here in the UK, but still widely available throughout Europe and in America, Lady Emma Hamilton is a fabulous rose, producing a large shrub with bronzed purple foliage and really deeply cupped orange golden flowers that are normally produced no earlier than the very end of June and all the way through into the back end of October. A fabulous rose with, for me, unrivaled fragrance. Unfortunately, no blooms to bring you today, but ranked at number 8 is the Lady Emma Hamilton. Right, next up for you, and quite a large slide for this particular rose. And it's not anything to do with this particular rose, it's the fact that some of the ones that are coming into the collection are so outstandingly good that unfortunately On The Floss has been knocked down the top 10 quite substantially. A really good statement shrub, really finding its feet in the back end of the season. And I know we all love the opulence and the excess of June and July, but this particular rose really coming into its stride in late August, September and into October, where those colder nighttime temperatures will really start to bring out the difference in marbling. If I move that bloom about, the marbling in the actual flower itself, this lovely apple blossom white tinged with really heavily pink on the edges, giving it a really lovely antique look to the flower. Give this rose some space, give it a pillar, give it a post, give it an obelisk, give it something to grow up. Mine towers up to around 8 or 9 feet, huge arching stems dripping with these beautiful nodding heads. This one is Mill on the Floss, ranked at number 7. Another pair for you, because I couldn't help quite but bring you 22 roses and not just 20. These two roses are so comparison. They share the same heritage. The first of all is Harlow Carr, which is the pink one, and its sister rose, the Country Parson, both ranking together. Absolutely both perfect for growing in a pot, both making it onto my best for fragrance range. These two roses are absolutely cracking. They are, however, really spiky, and I know a lot of you are put off by the thorn count, but the thorns are often paired hand in hand with the fragrance, and both of these roses absolutely dripping with fragrance and dripping with thorns. It makes them perfect for creating low informal hedges where security might be an issue, but you still want things to look really pretty and very, very inviting. So this is the Country Parson paired with the sister rose Harlow Carr, both ranking at number 6. Right, we're getting right down into the nuts and bolts of things now. Next up for you, a cracking rose making it onto several of these collections. I adore this one. This is the very, very lovely Stacy of Eye. A beautiful rose, fantastic for growing in a pot with lovely big pink apricot blooms with a lovely peachy and yellow centre. On my best, this nearly made my best for fragrance range this year, just missing out by 1 star, but Stacy of Eye is a really good all-round rose. If you're growing in a small space, these top 5 or 6 are really ones you want to be paying attention to, and Stacy of Eye, in my opinion, is well worth growing. So here she is, ranked at number 5. Right, the top 4 for you now. A new entry, smashing its way right into the top of the top 10, as I said it would do. This one is Hyde Hall. This rose has outstanded me this year, along with one other rose which is still to be entered into this collection. Hyde Hall will rebuff everything. I don't like to use the phrase, but this particular rose is bomb-proof. Rebuffing heat, rebuffing rain, rebuffing the dry. This rose will particularly still flower with long arching stems. I have never grown a rose with vigour and vibrance quite like it, producing masses of flowers for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, often creating the next repeat of flowers before the even flowers have actually come out themselves. The repeat is coming up alongside. This particular spur of blooms is taken from a huge spur, producing around 30 to 35 heads. So a really very strong, very vigorous rose, great for growing in a multitude of situations. This particular rose, if you have a poor or free draining soil and exposed site, Hyde Hall is still going to perform really well for you. So smashing its way right in to number 4, a new entry, which is Hyde Hall. Next up for you, this might come as a little bit of a shock. Last year's number 1, Silas Marner, shrinking down into 3rd place in my most recommended David Austin roses. This rose has done absolutely nothing wrong. This particular bloom, very small, often creating blooms something in the region of 4 to 4.5 inches across. A large, beautiful, pure pink bloom with an unrivaled fragrance, really lovely dark, glossy green foliage, and beautiful purple tinged edges to the leaves and to the stems. However, Silas Marner now being outperformed by several roses in the garden, but still a very respectable placement for last year's number 1. Down 2 places at number 3 is Silas Marner. Shuffling around slightly, up 1 place and pitching Silas Marner into a number 2 is Gabriel Oak. This colour, combined with the foliage, combined with its disease resistance, combined with its size, combined with all of the things together, its disease resistance and the beauty of its stem colour, and even the thorns are pretty, means Gabriel Oak moved up a ranking or 2 with me this year. Absolutely cracking. This lovely silvery hue to the blooms as it ages. Very pretty. The fragrance, it's an absolute knockout. It's warm and fruity, has notes of blackcurrant and apples. There's elderflower in there too. I mean, this rose gives you all the romance This would be a number one rose if it wasn't quite so strong on the colour. For me, if it was a paler pink, I think it would be certainly a number one rose. But Gabriel Oak up one place, knocking Silas Marner down to number 3 and making it to my number 2 on my most ranked, most recommended David Austin roses is Gabriel Oak. Right, that leaves one more rose. I've made my opinions of this particular rose over the last 12 months very, very clear indeed. A new addition for David Austin in 2022. It gives me a great pleasure to announce that I am now ranking Bring It Me Sunshine the must-have rose in the David Austin collections. This is cracking. There's nothing else to say about it, although I will burble on about it forever. This particular rose is absolutely astonishing. When I first saw this in the catalogue, it was actually its other edition. Where is it? Elizabeth was the rose that I wanted. And I think there was a real scrabble on stock when David Austin launched these two roses. Bring Elizabeth was the rose to have due based on its name and its name alone. Bring Me Sunshine in the catalogue looked really brassy, very coppery, and very, very burnt orange. And I wasn't looking for another rose of that particular colour. However, Elizabeth wasn't available, so I bought 2 Bring Me Sunshines and placed them in pots either side of my little stable. This rose is absolutely astonishing. It is large and it is very, very vigorous. Mine reaching well over 8 feet in their pots, and their pots are nowhere near large enough. I would suggest growing this on a pillar, a post, or an obelisk. Maybe place it against a wall and fan train it. Don't see that this particular rose being big is a big issue for you, because it's a really great problem, a really lovely plus point for this particular rose. It will be absolutely dripping with flowers right from the very beginning of the season all the way through. Flowers and flowers, June, July, August, September, October. It goes on and on and on. Absolutely disease resistant. I have no problems with this rose whatsoever. The fragrance, oh, it's warm and peppery and spicy. It's got notes of sandalwood and cedar. It's really, really lovely. Bring Me Sunshine is a pure golden rose. You can see glowing with colour there, deeply ruffled and deeply cupped. A really great addition by David Austin Roses from 2022. This particular rose now ranking as my number 1 most recommended David Austin rose out of the, well, I'm afraid to say it's well over 130 varieties I grow here in the garden. So this particular selection brought together and put together by myself this year. So a slight swap round in the top 10, 1 or 2 roses moving about. Please do make sure, if you have enjoyed this particular video, you leave me a comment below, share it and save it for later. And also, if a particular rose out of the 22, because it's not 20, it's 22 I've brought you today, if one of the particular roses really catches your attention, do make sure that you do check out its full personal review. You'll find them either on Instagram in my story highlights or on my YouTube channel, and the username for both of those accounts is _Gardner Ben. I hope you've enjoyed today's best of new top 20 David Austin roses, and I will see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye bye.